Welcome to my channel, Collective. This portion of the channel is called From Within, Divine Feminine. Here I will be diving deep into the depths of spirituality, what it means, who we are, our practices, and so on. There's so much information and downloads that I receive on a daily basis. I've been trying to figure out how to properly deliver the information without causing any further harm to myself or humanity. I have reached a level of ascension now where I am ready to speak, in the 3D realm, that is. If you know, then you know. I only ask that you be patient with me, for this is a lot of information to intake, but also a lot of information to put out. With that being said, let's dive in. Oh wait, let's get into it. So today the topic is telepathy. I wasn't gonna record today, but my little ones are pushing down on my sacral chakra, and usually when they do that, that means either they want to speak or they want me to speak. So here I am. I'm here for it per usual. So let's get into it. Before I get into the topic, I do want to give you all, a background on my level of intelligence, so that listening to this video, you don't start to question my sanity or my my level of mental health, because I am very mentally stable, and everything that I speak of, it has been tested and it has been tried, and therefore to me it is a fact. A fact is something that can be proven, and I have been testing my gifts and my abilities and everything that I'm about to speak of. I've been testing it I've been testing it since I started to awaken, but I've really been putting it to the test in 2020. Now, if you all know 2020, I'm not going to jump there. So let's start with the beginning. As a young girl, I was very, very, very intelligent, like highly intelligent for my age. Numbers were my thing. I'm very, very, very good with numbers. So, by the age of, I won't say age, but I'm going to say 5th grade. When I was in the 5th grade, I was in algebra. It's just something about the numbers. When I look at them, they used to move, and they just used to add, and I don't know. I love numbers, and I was always good at it. So I could do problems in my head, like at the snap of my fingers. I was always advanced. So there's that. By the time I was in the 6th grade, I got a letter from the president. By the time I was in the 6th grade, the president of the United States, I don't know who it was at the time, but that had to be like 2006. If you guys know, then drop it in the comments, who the president was in 2006. But yeah, he ended up writing me a letter of, what is it? Like he was accommodating. I don't know. No, accommodating would be like to help. I don't know. It was a letter, and it was an award. It was some type of award. To be honest with you, I didn't read it. I didn't. But I remember getting it. I remember my mom hanging it up on the wall, and I remember being very, very, very excited about it. So yeah, there's that. Now, right around this time, after I received that award, me and my mom started to clash heads a lot. We started to clash heads, me and my siblings. It was just a lot of bickering. Sibling rivalry is, it's common, and I hope it's not going to be common anymore. But yeah, that's that. So, yeah. So right around this time, I had started to I was in middle school. So, and I was really, really, really fine. I had started to sprout. I started to get breasts, and, my mom, she's very, very shaped. She has a really nice shape. So I get that from her. And I just started to blossom out of nowhere when I hit 6th grade. So I had a lot of problem with the girls in school. They would try to jump on me and do this and do that. Just to give you all some background history, my dad went to prison in 1990. He was sentenced in 1996. So he's been gone for a very long time. He has been sentenced to life in prison. So I grew up without, that type of bond. So I had a lot of problems with the girls in schools because of my appearance, and that was that. So, I can't really, I'm going to try my best to give y'all as much as I can, but for some reason it's a little blurry back there, especially from my childhood, from the age I started going through these things, which was 6th grade. I don't remember too much from before that, but, yeah, there's that. So, let's see. I don't recall. I was I used to go, I'm gonna tell you how I used to do. I used to get up in the morning. I would watch Judge Mathis. I wanted to be a judge. So I would get up, I would watch Judge Mathis while I'm getting ready for school. I think it was Judge Mathis and Judge Lynn Toller, but that was before she was Toller. I think she was something else before that. But I used to get up and I used to watch them before school, and then I would go to school. School was my place to be free. I don't know why I felt like that, but it was. I go to school, I learn, I converse with people, and then I would come home. Now, I would come home and I would go in my room, close the door, and I would get into the TV. I would watch things. I was a loner. I don't know if that what struck a nerve with my mom or my siblings. I don't know, but I used to just come home, go in a room, get in my own little space, and then come out for dinner, eat, go bathe, take a shower, go back in the room, wake up, watch Judge Mathis. It was all it was a routine for me. So, they tried to say that I was depressed. I don't know. My mom tried to have me put on medication. Now, I don't know how y'all feel about medication, but baby, listen, that shit is really, really, really bad, especially for spiritual people, especially for gifted people. It suppresses your gifts. Only while you're taking them, though. Once you stop taking them, everything that you suppress, however long you were suppressing these gifts, that shit comes in 10 times worse. This is why you notice when a lot of people take medicine and then they miss dosages and they decide they don't want to take it anymore, they end up mentally, going a little cuckoo, nuts, because all of the information that was suppressed, it comes bomb rushing in at one time. Now you hear all of these voices, you're seeing all of these things that you were been supposed to see years. You were supposed to gradually, get into it. It was supposed to gradually start to show you things and tell you things. And this is God, this is the universe, this is your angels, this is your ancestors. They are supposed to teach you along the way. So they're speaking to you, they're talking to you, they're guiding you, they're sending you signs. If you suppress all of this, and when you stop to suppressing it, it all comes in full-fledged. It comes in full-fledged and it becomes a problem. Now they have a right to call you mentally insane because nobody understands what you see and what you hear, And so this is the problem with mental health. So I had to be every bit of about 11 going on 12. And they tried to say that I was depressed about my dad and this and that and this. I didn't even know the nigga. So I don't. Anyway, I mean, I love him and I know who he is and all of that. But I mean, to be technically honest, he was gone since I came out the womb. So like, I love them for being the bloodline that I chose to descend into. I love him for taking the mission to at least get me here, you know. So it's a respect on that type of a level. But I mean, if you want to be honest, physically, he has not been here for me. But that's another story for another day. Now, what was I about to get into? The medicine. Yeah, so they started to give me some type of shit that, I don't know, it just made me feel weird. Like, like I said in the beginning of the video, I've always been advanced, so I always paid attention to certain things. I really didn't notice it until now, but if I go back and I replay a lot of things, I was very aware. But the medicine, it used to like make me feel some type of way. Like, it made me feel like how weed makes me feel now. Like, if I was to hit a joint, that's how the medicine used to make me feel. Like, it used to like, it slowed my brain down. It like made me feel dumb, like, because time doesn't exist to me. I move through time and space. I'm a spiritual being, so my spirit moves through time and space. Telepathy. It's everywhere all the time. It's fast. If it's fast, it's like really, really, really fast. If you watch something fast enough, eventually it'll disappear. So it's like, it's still there. It's moving, but it's moving so fast to the point where you can barely see it. So that's another perspective to look at it. But yeah, so the medicine, it made me feel dumb. Like, it made me feel slow. So my mom, you know, she used to give it to me, but I didn't used to take it. For some reason, I used to hide it. I used to hide it under my tongue. I never took it. For years they kept trying to do that. And then after I started to react to the girls in school, you know, fighting, you know, just defending myself pretty much. I wasn't starting anything. I was defending myself. And then they tried to say that I had an anger problem. So now it's bipolar. You know, all of these different things that were trying to be pushed on me to suppress me at an early age. And it's actually quite sad now that I think about it now, because I was young and the person that was supposed to protect me, she didn't know any better, you know. And even if she did, like, we're just gonna stick with she didn't know any better, you know. Hopefully I can bring about a movement that would make people more aware of their children, you know, so that we can break these generational curses and save the babies from being suppressed and being afraid of their gifts and their God-given gifts, you know, because if they are aware of these things, they would have a better life than we did, than our parents did, than our grandparents did, than our ancestors did, you know, and that's the ultimate goal. So that was just a slight little background of the beginning. You know, another video, more information on that, but let's get into telepathy. So if you all know, at the middle of 2019, that was a major shift in the consciousness. The shift had not come yet, but the shift was coming. And, you know, there are certain people that have access to something called a looking glass. The looking glass, it is a machine that happens to tell you give you the different possibilities of the future. And so this, they knew something was coming, something that would advance spiritual gifts. They knew that Mother Earth would push out a toxin. Now, this toxin, it is
it's deadly, but it's not deadly to the point where it's only deadly if you're not aligning with her or him or they. The toxin is to help you evolve. The toxin is to, how can I say, enhance your gifts, make you a superhuman, But this toxin, that's what it was. So in 2019, this shift happened, and we shifted to a higher level of consciousness, which is the 5D. Now, how can I say? This whole big lockdown came. The lockdown came, the face mask came. They didn't want us to breathe in the air because the air is where the toxin is. If we breathe in the air, then the air will go into our vessels. It will mix in with all of our good shit that the good Lord made us with. It would go from our nostrils to our brain, from our brains to our eyes, to our throats, from our throats to our hearts, from our hearts to our navels, from our navels to our genital areas, from our genital areas down to the roots of our feet. Now, if you are a spiritual being, then you know that I just named all of the chakras. I didn't name them per name, like crown, third eye, throat, heart, solar plexus, sacral and root. But I said it in a way for the ones who aren't aware of the solar chakra system will know where I'm going with this as well. Like, I not only want to touch people who are aware, but I mostly came for the ones who are not aware, so that we can continue to shift the consciousness of Mother Earth so that she can stop what is going on, because she's pissed. Father Sky is pissed, and anyway, that's another story for another day. But yeah, so 2019, that was right before the shutdown. Now, the shutdown, they put us on lockdown. We went into hermit mode. I mean, pretty much, they put us all in hermit mode. See, but what was supposed to be the downfall, it ended up being a major advantage, because it gave a lot of us time to go within. And so we did. I started to research things. Well, there's someone that I know, T. He gave me a little skidget of information about life paths, and it kind of sparked my interest. So I dove deep into that, and once I started to dive deep into that, a lot of tarot started to come across my timeline, and so there I went. Now, I started to study things. I started to get telepathy. I first, as you know, I've been aware of certain things for a while now, but a lot of these things didn't start to actually make sense to me until about 2020. Now, in 2018, I decided to end a relationship that I was in for 9 years. Why I decided to end that relationship was because it had become very toxic for my mental health. And I had started to spiritually evolve. And the drugs just wasn't for me anymore. So once I came home from prison in 2016. And the guy that I was with, I think he came home from prison in 2018 or 17. I think the end of 17. So, I had all this time to get my little shit together. Mind you, when I came home from prison, I didn't go back to drugs because it was this whole big thing. Like, I had, it was a whole big spiritual thing, so I wasn't into the drugs. But when he came home, like he always does, we ended up back into the drugs, and it had become a real big problem. Like, it had become a really big problem because, as I evolve, my gifts evolve, and doing drugs with my gifts evolving is fucking terrifying. So, so we started to get back into that. Now, he decided he wanted to be a pimp. And so he stopped coming home, asked me if I wanted to be a madam. It was just a lot of different things. And I found myself getting angry. And I'm not a person of anger, so I don't like the way it makes me feel. It drains me of my energy. And so when I found myself like at a standoff in the middle of the road with my boyfriend, like we both got our sets up, we ready to go in, we out there fighting like two niggas in a boxing ring, I knew that was the end of the road for me, or for us, for that relationship, because I was too angry. I was angry to the point where I wanted to knock his teeth down his fucking throat. And that was a problem for me. Like, I don't like anger. That's an energy I'll never sit in. It's very low vibrational. It's very, it'll make you do things that you will regret. Even if you say something that you'll regret, it's just, I don't like the energy. And so I decided I was going to leave that relationship. It was one night I was really, really high, and I didn't want to leave his side because he was trying to be a pimp, and he had the girls, excuse my French, out there, and they had his phone. Every time I called, they were answering the phone and da-da-da-da. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna sit out here with you, knowing I didn't want to be out there at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. It was just not me. I'm a homebody. Like, I've always been a homebody. So I was out there, and I started to hear and see shit. So they thought I was going crazy. They was like, oh, I'm like, so y'all telling me y'all don't see that? Anyway, that's another story. I don't want to get into that because that one was kind of freaky. It was freaky to the point where, yeah, that's not something I want to get into. But when that happened, that's when I knew I wanted out of that. So I started making plans to leave. And so I did. Now we're going to fast forward. I ended up leaving him the house, made sure he had a car, did what I had to do. I packed my things in my car, and I went to my sister's house for a couple of months. And then this guy that I knew, that I met when I came home the first time, he kept calling. He was already calling me a couple of months before, and he was like, oh, I'm about to get this money. I'm coming to get you. We're going to go move to Georgia. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. $500,000 this man got. And he said he was coming to get me. And so I was like, okay. So the drug thing and then him calling, it all just fell into place for me. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't leave him to go with the other guy. I left him because I didn't want to be in that. So, yeah. So the guy, he ended up coming to get me. He's from Hollywood. He ended up coming to get me, and we went to Georgia. Now, He does coke. I'm not gonna say that's not something that I like or dive into, or that's not my DOC. DOC? We're gonna say that. That's not my DOC. So, yeah, but he knew what my DOC was. Molly, ex, things like of that sort. And so some kind of way he haven't defined that in Georgia. And so here I was again on the fucking hamster wheel of drugs. So this is a time. So I'm up here and I don't know what kind of shit they had up there, but that shit there heightened my senses so fucking hot. Like they heightened my senses so much, like a sense of it was like a sense of paranoia, but I know it wasn't paranoia because I used to test the things that I was seeing, like the people that I knew were, paying attention. I used to test the shit out of them. And so I don't know why. I just used to do it. So it's like, it was these vehicles, like fucking vans, trucks, all really, 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 really dark tints, long antennas, like parked across the street, like everywhere. So I would just look out the window, I would watch them, and then when I like pointed out, because I've been using my telepathy, this is when I started to use my telepathy, and then I would say things like, I see you sitting down there in this black truck with these dark tints and this long antenna. And as soon as I would say that, the truck would pull off. Now, mind you, this truck had been sitting there for hours, probably days. But when I mentioned it, I see you, the truck would leave. And 10 minutes later, another car would pull up. Different car, dark tints, but you can tell that it all was connected. So anyway, another story for another day. Now, let's get into it. I'm not gonna lie, I ended up wanting to come home because he was trying to live a lifestyle that I didn't want to live. I was already on my shit. I had my own car. I had my own place. I was okay, and I didn't have to come up there. So I didn't have to submit to his will that he was trying to make me bend to. I didn't have to. And so once I realized that it was a road of destruction, because you got $500,000, I'm giving you a plan straight forth I'm giving you a full-blown plan that doesn't take much education. It doesn't take, all you need is some money, and what I'm giving you can be accomplished. But because he got tricked into believing that my knowledge wasn't useful because I didn't have the book smarts, I didn't have the certificate, I didn't have the business certificate, I didn't have the schooling, quote unquote, to know these things. He had another woman influence him into believing that I was trying to use him and that I would lead him down a bad path. Now, mind you, I pay attention very well. I know this nigga don't like to work. This nigga don't like to work. He don't like to work. He don't like to do no hard work. He don't like to do none of that. He's one of those manipulative type of niggas. He'll let a female take care of him before he goes and take care of himself. He'll sell drugs before he go get a job. This type of energy. And so when she's trying to convince him to get a mobile detailing business, I'm like, that's not a good investment. I don't think that's a good investment. For one, a mobile detailing business, it takes a lot of time and patience and effort and hard work. You have to get out there in that sun. You gotta work. You gotta put that work in. You gotta advertise. You gotta be patient. You gotta understand that, you just gotta know what you're gonna invest into. You gotta know that if you're not a person that's good with hard work, then you need to get a business that works for you, not a business that you have to work for. There's a difference. There's a big difference. And so my plan was for him to buy a duplex. I was like, you can buy a duplex, or you can buy an apartment building, rent it out. That's income. You can rent them out. You'll have income. Not much work you have to do. If you do, you have to just hire somebody, come in, do the plumbing, do the electrical, do that. That's not work that you have to physically do, and you have the bread to pay for it. So why not do that? I thought that was a good idea, but no, she wanted him to get a car wash. Mind you, he's been dependent on her for about 18 years to pay his bill, to take care of him. He ain't gotta work, he ain't gotta do all this. She's a heavy-set woman. She has a beauty salon. She has these nice things, and she pampers him. So when he came upon this $500,000, the plan was to get you to burn out. I'm gonna get you to burn out so that you can still have to come back and depend on me. And so he ended up buying a house in Georgia, and he ended up, buying a lot of things. He bought this real nice ass dump. I ain't gonna lie, that dump was raw as fuck. It was black, had 30-inch rims on it. It was a drop top. That bitch had that wham in that thing. You know me, back in the day, I love that wham. That shit was loud, just disturbing the peace. I'm talking about, I ain't gonna lie, it was a raw ass little dump, but it cost a good little chunk of change. So, that was that. He ended up getting the house. But what was a red flag for me was, you got me to come up here with you, talking about how we finna do this, how we're finna do that. We're gonna do this and do that. You convinced me to leave my Toyota in Florida. You talk shit about my Toyota. Oh, don't nobody drive Toyotas. Don't nobody. Did I'm like, boy, you ain't even got no car. You ain't have no car. I'm like, boy, you ain't never had no car. You ain't never, don't sit around here and try to down my Toyota. I done had this Toyota for 4 years, and my baby got them feet on her, and she got that wham in there, so don't trip. So it was this whole big old thing. So he asked me what kind of car I wanted. I told him I wanted a Benz. I was like real infatuated with them Benzes. I forget the model and the make, but I know it was a white Benz that I wanted. So he bought the Benz, but he put it in his name, and he told me to leave my Toyota in Florida. So I left it here, but I was still paying on it because that's my car. Like, no, I'm not doing that. First of all, I don't trust people like that to give up everything that I own just to for you to have control over what I can and can't. That was a big fuck no for me. So yeah, I ended up leaving the Toyota here. And he had the Benz, so we had the Benz up there. And driving around. So I made it known. I was like, well, after a while, I started saying, well, when am I gonna get a car? Because you said you was gonna get me a car. And he's like, oh, well, you got the Benz. I'm like, no, I don't got the Benz, because the Benz is not in my name. That's in your name. It can't be mine if it's not in my name. It's not my possession. So, I started to apply a lot of pressure on that. And he was like, okay, well, he's going to get me a car. So I started looking for a car. And then he just started to change. He started to change and, texting different girls, leaving, going. But it started to become a problem because he was going... I didn't realize he was in a gang. He was a Crip, and he was going back and forth between Alabama and Georgia. He had an ex-girlfriend in Georgia, and it was just in Alabama. He had an ex-girlfriend in Alabama and was going back and forth about him and the girl, their beef, and she's a Blood, he's a Crip. I don't even know how that even mixed, but it was a whole big old thing. But you keep wanting me to ride with you to Alabama. You want to show me off. You want to show the bands off. You want to flash your money. And then you got all these fucking haters. So I felt like it was a dangerous situation. Now you want to spend all this money on drugs. You want to become a drug dealer. You want to get pounds of fucking coke, knowing that's your drug of choice. That's your DOC. But you want to get a pound of that and try to sell it. You ever heard of do not get high off your own supply? But when I realized he wanted to do that, it was really a fuck no for me. Because first of all, it's the selling drugs part. I was out of that lifestyle. But the fact that you wanted to get the drug of your choice to sell, first of all, my mind is, bitch, you gonna overdose. That's just one. And then it's like, okay, like, no, it was a fuck no for me. So I was like, look, I appreciate all of it, but I just want to go back to Florida because it's not working for me. I'm back up here. I'm on drugs. Like, I back on drugs. You going back and forth between Alabama and Georgia every 3 or 4 days, beefing with this girl. You want to show me off. Y'all arguing on the phone. It was just a bunch of conflict that I didn't want no parts of. I saw destruction. I didn't see that going anywhere. I don't give a fuck how much money you got. I really don't. That shit doesn't do anything for me if I don't feel safe. And so I wanted to come home. So he's like, oh, okay, well, you could go home, this, and that, and this. I forgot how he was going to send me home. But this nigga, he was just going to send me there, like, no money, no nothing. Just, like, he had a whole little pissy-ass, little hoe-ass, little attitude. So I'm like, well, hold up. I say, nigga, you done made me quit my job. Bitch, you done made me leave my car. Bitch, how the fuck I'm going to get back to Florida? You ain't going to give me no bread to get back to Florida? Like, I could catch a Greyhound, bitch, or something, like a fucking train or something. Like, I could, like, you just gonna tell me, like, that was a big problem. So, you know how it is, that word fuck nigga, make a nigga move real quick. So I was like, boy, you acting like a real fuck nigga, boy. You ain't gonna leave me up here like that and just because I don't want to be here, because I want to go back home, boy. Don't act like no fuck nigga, boy. I've been knowing you too long for you to be a fuck nigga. So, he just looked at me. He just looked at me hiding his little taters, and he went to the bank. He came back. He gave me $10,000, and he was like, "Huh, Felicia, man, I would never do that to you. Like, I ain't no fuck nigga. I don't want you to ever think I'm a fuck nigga." And so he gave me the 10 bands, and I tried to find my way back. You know, I ended up calling my cousin. My cousin stayed in Tallahassee. I wasn't too far from Tallahassee. I was like 2 hours from Tallahassee. So I ended up calling my cousin Tony, and he came to get me from Tallahassee. He came to get me from Georgia. And I went to his house for a few days. Now, that's that. Let's get back into COVID. Whew. I be having to give y'all a little backstory because it all adds up. It all makes sense. Like, the drugs play a big part in it. In my awareness. So COVID. So when that time came, I started to dive into, on the lockdown, I started to dive into the tarot and esoteric. I started to dive into esoteric knowledge, metaphysical, and I had started seeing this guy, somebody that I grew up with. I wasn't necessarily seeing him. I don't want to ruffle any feathers, but I started to converse with someone that I had grew up with, and that's who he mentioned, the life paths and masters, like, because he's an 11, his life path is a master 11, and so he made me do the numbers. Once I started crunching the numbers, I realized that I was a 33 master teacher. And so the thirst for knowledge began. I started to dive into certain things. Now, the ex that I had left in 2018, the one I was with for 8 years, I was still pampering his ass. Like, he would call me every now and then for a couple of dollars. I would go, take him a couple of dollars, help him do things, help him, buy him food. I was still like kind of supporting him. So he asked to use my address for unemployment, and I told him yes. And so he started to use my address for unemployment, and once he started to get the unemployment, I would take the check to him. Then I would have to take him to cash the check, and he would give me a couple of dollars. Mind you, he was still on the drugs, and so this is how I got back into it. So I got back into it, and you know, but it was only when I would go take him to check. So it went from, at first it was just from when I went to take him to check, and then I started to do it on my own. So I would I would go to work, I would come home from work, straight from work, I'm in the house, going up to the clouds. Now, mind you, when I, like I said before, when I get under the influence, it enhances my gifts. I'm able to take in a lot of knowledge on a higher level. It's like a higher level of learning. So as I started to research, I was high as shit researching. So as I'm researching and I'm high at the same time, it was tapping me into a what is it called? What is it called? Acoustic records. I started to tap into acoustic records. The things that I was reading, it was aligning to a lot of past lives, a lot of things that I've already lived. I don't know. I'm trying to explain it to the best of my ability. It's just started to all align. And so there I was, about to dive deep into the belly of the beast. So, I started to notice that after being up for more than 48 hours, the veil becomes very, very thin. The more you're awakened in your awakened state, and you haven't rested your brain or your physical body, it makes the veil between the spiritual realm and the physical realm very, very, very thin. And so it was always on the 48th hour, between the 48th and the, wait, what the fuck, what comes after 48? What, 72? 3 days of 72. So in between the 48 and the 72, there was a lot of shit happening, especially in the spiritual realm. And so I'm not gonna lie, I used to love to play, like, especially when I started to realize that the shit was real. Like, I used to love to play, I'm not gonna lie. So I used to, at one point I started to, get high just to go out and play, because I knew that I was being heard. So like, after the 48th hour, I'd have been up damn near 2 days, and I'm riding in my car, and like, I'm noticing, like, people just looking at me. They just looking at me, like, they just looking at me. And so I'm like, okay, I see y'all looking. Now I'm talking to them. I'm like, I see y'all looking. Like, I'm having a whole conversation. Like, what's up? How y'all doing? I see y'all looking at me. How you doing? People smiling, nodding their heads and shit. So it's like, so I wanted to test it. I wanted to test it a little bit more. So I was like, oh, if you can hear me, flash your lights. I say, damn, am I tripping? I'm like, I know I ain't tripping. Hey, if y'all can hear me, like, if anybody can hear me, I just need you to flash your lights. Bitch, flash it. They flashing their headlights. People flashing their headlights. So I'm like, okay, that I couldn't have just been tripping just then, right? So, okay. So I'm riding. I was like, okay, I'm finna go to Dunkin' Donuts. I'm gonna get me a frozen hot chocolate. So I go and I back in. So when I back in, a car that backs in. So when it backs in, I'm like, damn. I look over at them. Mind you, when y'all hear me say I'm talking like with my left. I'm talking with my mind. I'm talking with my soul, with my brain. And so I'm like, well, okay. I see y'all sitting over there next to this car. What, y'all waiting for me to get out? Such. Because, I'm gonna get out when y'all get out. What the fuck did I say? I said something to make them pull off, but they ended up, because they kept looking at me like, y'all making it obvious. Y'all looking at me. And then when I say something, like, y'all reacting to what I'm saying, in my head. So it's like this one guy, he tried to tell me, he's like, people that talk to themselves be crazy. This and that and this. This is at this job I had started 2021. I think this is after the car accident. 2022, I had started this job, and the guy, like, he was flirting with me and shit, but like I could tell he was talking, like I could pick up on his energy, like, so he like, by this time in 2022, my telepathy was fully active. Like, it was fully active. Like, after the car accident that fucked up my leg, after that I was like fully activated, and so my telepathy was fully activated. I was using it like every day. It has become a part of my lifestyle now. So it's like I'm fully aware. And so he's like, people that talk to themselves are crazy, like this and that and this. So me being so aware, I know what the fuck he's talking about. So I looked at him and I was like, well, who talks to themselves? I say, I want to make something very clear to you. I want to bring something to your attention. Why you going to sit here and talk to me about somebody being crazy? How do you know that I'm talking to myself if my mouth isn't moving? Because my mouth isn't moving. I'm talking, but my mouth isn't moving. I'm talking on the inside. So you're talking to me. You want to question my sanity? Like, I say, so if you can hear me and my mouth isn't moving, you should be questioning your sanity. Don't question me. Don't question if I'm insane or not. Because technically, how do you hear? You need to be questioning how you can hear me. Question that. Question how the fuck can you hear what I got going on in my head if I'm crazy? How are you going to call me crazy? You make it make sense, because you don't make any sense. Now, I could see if I was actually saying something out of my mouth, like how some people, they get caught in between, they get stuck in between physical and spiritual. And so, yeah, they talk, but they're not talking to themselves. Nobody is ever really talking to themselves. I know I'm not. Most of the time, if I'm using my telepathic ability, sometimes I might be, talking to myself. But other times, I'm either talking to God, I'm talking to my ancestors, I'm talking to the angels, or I'm talking to another soul. And I can talk to souls all the way across the world. I could talk to souls in other countries. My ability has been stretched so far to where it is universal. It is now universal. It has now reached the masses. And so I tell people, like, don't come to me because you don't see me sitting down talking out of my mouth as if I'm third world crazy, because I'm not. So if you can hear me in my head, question how you're able to do that. Question that before you question my sanity. Question how you, sir, can hear that. And then you tell me what is mentally, what's possible and what's not. And so, let's go back. I'm not gonna lie, this video here is gonna be long because I haven't even gotten to where I'm headed with this. So that's that. Now, so yeah, that's around COVID time where I used to go outside and play. Like I literally, I used to go out and play. Yeah, I'm not gonna get into that playing anymore because it's a lot. It's just certain things I used to do just to make sure that I wasn't crazy. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't crazy, so I do tests to prove to myself that I'm not crazy. And so Yeah, that was that. So if you've been following the journey from the previous videos, you know that around this time I had wanted to leave Florida. The drugs had become a bit much for me, and I thought the drugs were the problem. I thought I was only hearing and seeing because of the drugs. I thought the drugs were what was causing these supernatural things to happen. And so I decided to leave Florida. I left and I went to my mom in Jacksonville. I was up there I tested her with the theory as well. It really pissed her off. It pissed her off because my spirit is a lot more flip with the lip than my physical self. Like, my soul, it defends me physically. It defends me on a higher level. It speaks its mind. It's free. It is a free spirit, and it doesn't sugarcoat. It doesn't hold back. It doesn't it is very, very, very dominant. Very dominant and strong. Very strong. Very connected to the Most High Gods. It is connected with the earth. It is connected with the sky. It is connected with the spirits, and it is something. And so, what can I say? I think I might make a part 2 because I don't know if my phone has enough storage to even store this, but so yeah, I ended up leaving, going to Jacksonville. And then from Jacksonville, you all know, if you've been listening, that I went from Jacksonville back to Georgia with the Jamaican guy. I tested my abilities there too, especially because of the things that he used to do to make me want to test the abilities. And I started to heighten after COVID. Everything started to heighten because I never wore masks. I'm not gonna lie to you. The only time I wore masks is when I had to go inside of a building, a public building, and it was required. It was a requirement. Other than that, I breathed in all the air that I could, which is why I'm so tapped in. I took all that in. I'm not gonna lie to you. I just didn't want to wear the mask. I felt suffocated. Like, no, I don't want to wear that. Like, what? First of all, no. Like, who the fuck want to smell their own breath all day? But that's neither here nor there. I ended up in Georgia. This is another place where I tested the theory. Because this guy was just weird. Like, I knew he was into some type of other shit. We just gonna say other shit, and it had gotten real weird. So he started to piss my spirit off to where she was on his ass. Like, she was on his ass. She, he, them, they, us, we, look, was on his ass because who the fuck is you playing with? Like, yeah, no, sweetheart, no, no. So, him and the little boy, they were doing their thing. They thought that I didn't, but I did. And so, yeah, how did I test it up there? I was working with him. I was working for this company he was working for. We were movers. We help people move from state to state. And so, I don't know. It's like he used to try to tap into my abilities, like, he would try to make me think that, we were so connected. Like, this is what pisses me off. People try to make it seem like, me and you are just so connected. Like, we're not, like, the whole world is not connected. Like, everybody is connected. But the simple fact that you're just trying to make it seem like you're just so connected to me. And, like, he's like, yeah, like if I think something, like say if I think something like something that I want, or if I say damn, like damn, I want a soda, I want a bottle of water, he'll go get the bottle of water and bring it to me, and then be like, oh, or if I'm saying something, he'll finish the sentence and be like, oh, see how I finished your sentence? Like, oh, like we supposed to be together. Like just trying to make it seem like, oh, we supposed to be together. I finished your sentence. Like, boy, you can hear me. Don't sit here and don't fucking sit here and like you like I don't. It was just fucking. And it started to become weird because people started to try to manipulate my reality, like to make it seem like it was something that it was way more than, you know, like it was bigger than what they tried to make it seem like it was. And so there was that. Now let's fast forward, because I don't want to get deep into that. We already talked about that situation in the last video. So let's skip to the car accident. Not the last one, but the first one. The very, very, very first one with the Toyota. And when I heard the voice of God telling me to lead my people. And so I got out of the car and God was like, lead your people. And so my friend whose house I was getting ready to go to, we getting back into telepathy. Mind you, this whole video is about telepathy. This is how I communicate. And so she came to pick me up. Now I'm in Winter Haven. This is not Winter Haven, Florida. And weird, like really, 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 really weird. This is when shit got real weird real fast. And so she came to pick me up. Now mind you, I had to get my car towed, so I didn't have any transportation at that time. So I was dependent pretty much, which everybody, if you know me, you know I don't like to depend on nobody for anything, and this is exactly right here. So well, one of the reasons she comes, she picks me up, we go to her house. She had just bought a house, and I had my car towed, and I had it put in the backyard. Mind you, all of my clothes, all of my belongings are there. So that was that. Now, mind y'all, I had just awoke. I had just started to become aware, like really, 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 really aware. That accident, that guy using his magic to try to kill me because I didn't let him sacrifice me, it was the last straw for the God that I believe in. And so they fully thrust me into an awakening, a sense of awareness. And so shit started to get real. So I'm up here in Winter Haven with her and her family. So I had just started listening to a certain caliber of music, spiritual music, softer music, not so much rough, because I was always rough around the edges. In the music that I listened to in my first half of this lifetime, it was a little bit rough. So I started to transition into softer music, more feminine music, you know, just to calm my soul, to calm my spirit. And so what is her name? I think India Irie's song, it is called I Am Light. It's a really, really, really nice song that stuck with me along the journey, the beginning of the journey. So I started to listen to that. And so she's cleaning her house, you know, she's painting, she's doing her thing, and she let me play a song. So I played the song, and I sat down, you know, in meditation mode. I crossed my feet, I positioned my fingers, and I began to meditate. Now, my soul, you know, when you meditate, I don't know about anybody else, but when I use my God-given gift. I use my telepathy to communicate with the gods, the sky, and the earth. And so I started to do that. Now, as I'm sitting there with my eyes closed and I'm talking, I'm using my little gift, little thingy thing to speak. I open my When I open my eyes, she's standing there and they're both standing over me looking. They're looking at me. And it's like they're in awe. They're in shock. They just stared. And I knew why they were staring, because I had already been testing it. And so I knew. I wasn't quite sure. I was still in the testing phase. Like, before I came as confident as it took about 4 years to me to get very, very, very confident in my abilities. So I wasn't quite yet confident in it yet. I was still testing the theory. Like, this is why I'm able to actually speak about it and not give a fuck about what the comments have to say, because I know that there are going to be people that are going to come and they're going to comment and they're going to try to shift my perception. But it can't be shifted, because this is something that has been tested. It has been tried, and it has been proven to be a fact. And so it cannot be shaken. And so, what was I about to say? Yeah, so they're staring at me. Now, I don't know what happened from that time in the middle of the night, that whole night, because I went to sleep. We all went to bed. We went to bed, and around this time, my soul was really, 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 really active. I've gotten more control of it, but when God first thrusted me into it, she was lit. She was on fire. She was talking. She was just unveiling shit. She was just revealing shit. I had no control over it. She was just, in the midst of her trying to figure out what was going on, she was fucking unveiling shit and telling people's fucking business, telling a lot of things that a lot of people didn't know or wasn't supposed to know. And it started to trigger a lot of people in high places. And so I became a target. All of my sleeping agents that were around me had become activated. Like, like how in the Matrix, when Neo and Trinity went in, and how the agents would just pop up. Like, that shit is real. And so all of the sleeping agents were activated. And so it was like everybody that I thought was close to me, they had all started to treat me a certain type of way. Like, I had such bad luck, or I was such a bad person, or I was crazy. It just all became like it was like an attack, right? And so the next morning when I woke up, she was like, "Oh, come on, get up, come to work with me. We're gonna what did she say? Something about going to work with her." So as we used to getting dressed, she said something. I guess her and her man had a conversation, and he told her like he wanted me or something like that. So it made her uncomfortable, and so he tried to convince her to get me to be with both of them. But I can tell by the way that she was acting that that's not what she wanted. I can tell that he was making her do it. And they were married. They had just gotten married. They had just recently gotten married. And so I can tell by the way she was acting very, very like weird. Like, and mind you, I had been knowing her for years. This was like my ex-boyfriend's sister. So I had been knowing her for a while. And she was just really, really weird about it. Like, she kept saying, "Oh, all these years, now all of a sudden he want another girl. Like, what is it about you?" And it was just real fucking weird. So I ended up going to work with her that day. And then, because she was a manager at Family Dollar or some shit. But we ended up leaving there. And when we came back to her house, she started to, paint the house. And because she's really, really, really talented. she's a really strong woman. Like, before she got vaccinated, like, she was really, 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 really strong-minded woman. That vaccination, like, it did something to her mind. And she was just different. Like, it was a lot of things that was different about her, like, darker. Like, for instance, her kids, like, she worshipped the ground that they walked on. She's very protective, you know. Very, 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 like, she was actually a woman that I looked up to. Mad respect for, because she did what she had to do as a woman. But around this time, you know, after being, what is the word I like to use? Not taken, but bugged. After being bugged, it's just something different. Like, I'm gonna give you an example. The little boy, she had just had a little boy. He was like 1 or 2, and so handsome, so handsome, but very, very, very awakened. Very awakened. If you hear me speak, you will know that I feel as though most of the world is awakened. I'm trying to get everybody more aware, but awakened is most of the people in this world are aware, even the infants. So this young child, very, very, very awakened. Awakened is to know thy neighbor. Aware is to know thyself. And so this little soul knew my soul. This little soul knew who I was, and it was only in a 1-2-year-old little child baby. And so he kept taking the fork. It's like he had a fork, and he kept trying to stick it in the wall thing, the plug thing. And everybody is like, it was like nobody's seen it, but everybody is standing there. Like, I'm the only one see him trying to stick this fucking knife in this thing. So I'm like, oh fuck, I ain't mean to say that. Oh Lord Jesus. So I'm like, sis, you don't see. I say he's trying to stick the thing in there, so she take it from him. She'd take it from him. I don't even think she took it. I think she was just like, oh, he'll be all right. She'd be like, stop doing that. Da, da, da. But she never took the fork. So, he kept doing it. So eventually I took the fork from him. And then outside, like, it was this big ass chainsaw. Like, because she was remodeling her house, so it was a lot of different things around the house, and this big ass chainsaw was outside, and his little ass is walking around with the chainsaw, and I'm like, oh my God, when I say so afraid for the little boy, I'm not gonna lie, because he was just doing some really dangerous things, and it's as if he had come. I'm not gonna say that. Even though this is what I felt, I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna try to put a little pause on it. I ain't gonna be fuck. Alright, so I ain't gonna say what I felt and heard from him. But he wasn't happy with where it was he had landed. Anyways, so he was trying to find the fastest way out. Oh my God, Lord. I'm trying not to be incomplete, But anyways. So we came home from her job that day, and, as we're all doing, I'm trying to help her decorate her home and, do the wall. She was putting the tape on the wall. You know how they put the tape on the wall and then they kind of paint over it and then they take the paint off and then you have like a white line. If you're a designer, you know what I'm saying. Like, so that was that. Now, what was I finna say? Okay, so this is how I got like really uncomfortable. Now, while we were at her job, he went and got us breakfast. He brought both of us breakfast, both of us coffee, and I thought that was sweet, but it was still weird, but sweet. So I didn't think nothing of that. now now we're at the house there where everybody's, got the music on, we're vibing, we're chilling, and she keeps playing like weird fucking songs, like trying to, I don't know. She played Monica, Why Her, fucking, it was just like weird fucking songs, like old songs like, oh, this my house, and oh, get out, and just little fucking dumb shit. So the next day, she was off, and she wasn't off. It was that same day. That same day, we ended up walking to the store, and we was having a conversation. And so I asked her, did she still believe in Jesus? And she just looked over at me like I had something in my teeth, and she didn't even answer. So I left that at that. Mind you, around this time, that was like my main question for everybody. That was the main question that God wanted me to ask everybody. I was asking anybody that came who wanted to have a conversation with me. That was the question. Well, do you believe in Jesus? So that was that. Where do we go with this story? And so, yeah, we go to the store, we come back, she's playing all these weird ass songs and blah, 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 blah. And I kept going outside to sit in my car because, I'm a loner. I'm an introvert. I'm a extroverted introvert. I'm mostly an introvert. So I like to be in seclusion. And so I would go outside and sit in my car, and I guess it was kind of offending her, which it shouldn't have, because you're playing all these songs to make me uncomfortable. And I know you're playing them on purpose. Like, you know how if you could just play a playlist, like, and you just let the playlist just play out. No, like, you're sitting there searching for these songs. You're playing these songs. So that means your intentions are your intentions. I'm not tripping. You're intentionally trying to give me a message. Me, him, I don't know who, but I got it. And so I would go out and sit in my car. I tried to give her as much space as possible. I didn't want to be a problem. And I definitely didn't want nobody thinking that I was trying to take their man. So I would go out and sit in the car. Then when I would go back to try to go in the house, the door would be locked. And then there was like this weird ass, they had like one of those little closets, like a storage cabinet closet outside, and it was like this fucking little doll in there that was like really weird. It was like, and then she was like, girl, look at this thing was in here when we moved in here, and it was like a dog, but it was hung by a rope, but it was like a doll, like. And I'm like, well, why you ain't take it down? You just move here. It look weird. You don't want nobody to be thinking weird. And she was like, oh, no, my husband was just like, leave it, and this, and that, and this. And I was like, okay, well. I left that at that. And so, I'm trying to get there, y'all. I am, but I'm trying to give you the details. So... the next morning she got up for work, and I slept in my car. I didn't sleep in the house. And so when I got up, she was gone for work. She didn't come out and get me. She just left, and her husband was there, and I didn't want to be there with him. So I Googled the Family Dollar, and I ended up walking there. That shit took me like an hour and a half. So I ended up walking there, started to walk, and as I started to walk, my spirit started to speak. It's like it had known the area. It's like, I don't really want to reference the Bible because I'm not a really big fan of it, but somewhere in the Bible, one of those people were traveling from city to city and doing miraculous things and speaking to spirit. And so this is what I felt. As I was walking, I was speaking. my soul was speaking, and it was replaying the car accident that I had just been in. It was reacting everything that I had just been through with the guy in Georgia. It was just starting to reveal a lot of things about how he had chosen another man over a woman, and how he was stealing from me and taking from me, and how he chose to become an enemy, and how he chose to use his power to try to kill me. And I don't know, I was just speaking about a lot. And as I'm walking, like, all the cars were pulling over. It's like they were pulling over, they were watching me, like they were just looking and looking and looking. Mind you, I'm not saying anything out of my mouth, so nobody knows that I'm talking. Well, they weren't supposed to know. Like, how do y'all know, like, if my mouth isn't moving? And so I'm walking, and this fucking police officer, he pulls over into one of the parking lots on the side of the sidewalk that I'm walking on, and he's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm fine, sir. I'm okay." He was like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I kept walking. But you think you're going to sit here and make me say something that could possibly make you want to take me to the crazy house? Get the fuck out of here. How you know I'm talking if my mouth ain't moving? Okay, that's another story. Ha! So it's long walk. Now, I get to Family Dollar, I go in, I say hi to everybody, blah, 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 blah. And she asks her for her keys. I go out and I sit in her car. And mind you, I had just got into tarot. Like, I had just started watching tarot. And I'm sitting out there and I'm watching the videos, and it's just revealing so much to me. And so she comes out and she likes this joint. Now, mind you, I'm thinking that it's just weed because she's at work, who I don't know. So the joint was already rolled. I know that she does coke on the side, but I figured we've been knowing each other long enough that if you had spiked this joint, that you would tell me. Like, you would give me a choice to decide if I wanted to hit the blunt or not. And so she didn't, and I thought it was just weed, and so I hit the blunt. Now, I'm very, very, very aware once again, and so I noticed that, mind you, I had been doing, Molly and X since I was every bit of 15, 16 years old. By this time, I'm like 20, I'm like 30. I was 30. And so I know the reaction that my body have to certain drugs. And so I hit the blunt and I started to feel some type of way. It's just like I was giddy. Like I was giddy. Like, my mouth was dry. I'm thirsty as fuck. Like, my spirit is lit. Like, my gifts are lit. Everything is enhanced. So it's like, well, damn, I know weed don't do that to me. Weed slows me down. So I'm like, how the fuck am I? I'm trying to contemplate, like, how is all of these things active off of weed? And this is just something I'm thinking about. I didn't respond. I didn't bring it up to her or nothing. It's something that I'm contemplating because I can feel the difference in my body. I can feel the difference in my soul. I can feel the difference in my gifts. And so my spirit started to speak. We went to, I don't know, it's like I started to talk to her about different things, about God and about my beliefs and about what I had been through. Now, mind you, I had started to speak with her. I was speaking to her out of my mouth, and I was also speaking to her with my spirit. It was like a fluctuation between both. So, I had given her my soul had given her a choice and then had wanted her to come with me. I don't know if she thought like she had power over me or she was going to have power over me because I was with her. I didn't have transportation. You know, I was dependent on her or whatever. But I don't know if she had actually pulled in that city or what. But she took me to this gas station and I don't know, it was just weird. Like, after I had given her the ultimatum, after my soul had given her the ultimatum, it's like, she took me to this gas station and it was like a fucking gang of people there just standing there, just looking at me. And I was like, what the fuck? Anyway, we ended up going inside, coming out, getting in the car, blah, blah, blah. So the next day, we went to her job and we were sitting in the car. So after a couple days of being there, and with all of the funny acting shit, the things that she was saying, the music she was playing, the way her kids were acting with me, mind you, her kids always loved me, so the way that they were acting had become very weird. And so I had become rebellious against her. My soul had become rebellious against her, and it started to speak against her. It was like the next day we went to her job. It had started to speak. It started to say things like, oh, she does not have power over me. She would never have power over me. Anybody that wants power over me is weak. If you follow her, you will follow her into the pits of hell. Mind you, I'm in the middle of fucking Family Dollar with my soul. I'm thinking like my soul is speaking this, and so as it's saying this, and I walk through Family Dollars, when I open the door and walk in, she comes rushing towards me. Mind you, I'm not saying any of this out of my mouth. My soul is saying this. This is me testing, you know. And so I walk in, and she comes rushing from the back, because as my soul is speaking, everybody in Family Dollar has stopped what they're doing and they're looking at me. They're listening to me. And so she comes rushing from the back and she walks up to me. She walks up damn near about to kiss me in the face. And she's like, what's up? And so I'm like, what's up? Because you know me, I'm on that. I always been on that. And so she walks up to me and she's like, damn near about to kiss me in the mouth. And she's like, what's up? So I'm like, what's up? When I say, what's up? You know, and I size her ass like up and down. She backs down. She kind of tell between her legs. She's like, you know, I'm just playing with you. And so, you know, I just went on about my little way and walked outside and went back and sat in the car. And everybody went on their merry little ways. Now, she comes out, get in the car with me. We start smoking the blunt. Now, this blunt here is laced worse than the other one was. And so, my senses starting to heighten again. But it's more to a irritated state, like a poison, I want to say. So I needed a break. I'm not gonna lie, I needed a break from that energy, and so I asked her to help me get a hotel. So because I was waiting for, what was I waiting for? I was waiting for some type of deposit. I don't know where it was from. I think it was from my 401k. I think I was taking some of it out. But she ended up helping me get a room, and I got a room at this hotel. Now, mind you, I had just got through smoking a blunt with her, and my body started to reject whatever was in that blunt. I don't know what it was, but my body started to reject it. I started to vomit. I was vomiting for about 3 days. hot sweats, like my body, like I was in hot sweats. Like I kept getting in the shower. Anybody who has been listening to me spiritually knows that water heals everything, and I always use water to heal myself, especially hot water, like a hot bath. So I would sit in the tub and submerge myself in water and let the water heal me. I did that for 3 days. I vomited for 3 days. There was this van parked right outside of my window. I was on the 2nd floor, but the van was parked in the back of the building, right on the outside of the window, with this long ass antenna. It was just sitting there. But yeah, as my body was purging whatever the fuck that was that tried to fucking, I don't know what that was, but that shit was bad. It had me fucked all the way up for a couple days. And then eventually I ended up calling her back to come get me. So when she came back to get me, we went back to her house. And mind you, the couple of days that I spent in that hotel, I did a lot of revealing. I told you the spirit was just on fire. So it was just revealing a lot of things. Like a lot of things were just coming to light. It was just making sense. And so she, how can I say? I'm not gonna like get too much into it because it's almost about to be an hour and a half. So, I started to question her. Now, by this time, she had started to try to make me feel as though I was crazy. When I came back from the hospital, my phones were smashed. Like, I have 2 phones. I've had 2 phones for about 6 years now. And I don't think they knew I had 2 phones then because I only was using one. I was using my iPhone. My Galaxy was in my car. So my iPhone... Okay, so yeah, I'm not gonna... That was when I came back from the hospital. Okay, so when I came back from the hotel, she, we were standing out there talking, and they had started to make me feel as though I was crazy because I had started to make them aware that I was aware. I had started to, my soul, not my physical mouth, but my soul had started to make her choose. What side are you on? I can't, like, I'm trying not to sound too bananas, but I tested her, and she fell for it. We were standing outside, and I had been going through a lot, especially with the drugs and stuff. So she, I don't know, I was talking to her with my soul, and so I was like, damn, I gotta stop seeing that. I was like, I said her name, and I was like, if you can hear me, look at me. While I'm talking, I say, look at me. I say, if you can hear me, look at me. Look at me in my eyes. Mind you, I'm using my soul, my telepathy to do this. And when I said it, she looked up and she looked me in my eyes. I dropped to my knees. Wait, before this, we're going to go to before this, because I don't want to leave this part out about this little boy. This little boy, the one who's 1 and 2, who he was either 1 or 2, I don't really know. But I was standing outside, and his dad was fixing the window, and he was standing by the front door. And so I was trying to go in the house. I was trying to open the door to go in the house, but he kept pushing it closed. Like, every time I would open it, he would push it closed. Like, he would lean on it and push it closed and push it closed. So I looked down at him, and I was like, you don't have to worry. Damn, what did I say? I said you don't have to worry. What you don't know. What did I say? I said you don't have to worry. You're safe. You cannot be held accountable for what you don't know. It was something in that line. And when I said that, he moved his arm away from the door and he walked away and let me inside of the house. I paid attention to that. I pay attention to every fucking thing. I'm telling you, the little boy, he got one of them souls. But anyway, so I'm standing there and I'm like, well, damn, if you can hear me, look at me. If you can hear me, look me in my eyes. And so she did. That was just me testing my gifts again. And I dropped down to my knees and I started to cry. And cry and cry and cry. So, I ain't even gonna lie. I think I gave y'all the story a little backwards. I don't think I've been to the hotel yet. Because she ended up trying to have me Baker at it. I was, after she looked at me in my eyes, I dropped down to my knees and I started to cry because I had started to realize that shit was real. I had started to get downloads about her brother and how he was sacrificed to take me down. Not so much as she sacrificed him, much so as people in higher places sacrificed him because he was in a lower vibration. You know, when you're in a lower vibration, you're more susceptible to being taken. You're more susceptible to being controlled, whether you like it or not, whether you realize it or not. If you're not aware of the things that you hear, you're moving off of somebody else's will, off of somebody else's instructions. And so I had started to realize that, and it started to scare the fuck out of me. So I dropped to my knees and I started crying. You know, my soul was speaking and I was just breaking down, and it was tough. And then she ended up calling the police. Now, she called the police and the police came. Well, she told me she was going to call the police. And so she called the police because I was crying. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe all this time. I didn't know. And this happened and that happened. And this, so I'm just trying to explain it to her and I'm just venting. And the bitch tried to put me in the crazy house. So when the police came, they, it was a lady. And so I tested her as well. She was talking to me, but as she's talking to me, I'm not talking to her with my physical mouth. I'm talking to her with my mind, testing. And so she's like, what's your name? So I answer her with my mind. I'm like, Felicia Hall. So she looks at me, right? It's like she wants to smile so bad, but she's not gonna smile. So she's like, what's going on? And, you know, I started to explain it to her with my mind. I was just like, I don't know. I'm going through some things. I'm finding out a lot of things. You know, this is that and that. She like, when's your birthday? So, you know, she's asking me these things, but she wants me to speak with my mouth. So she's like, I need you to speak with your mouth. She's like, I need you to speak with your mouth. And so I started to speak. So I was like, so I started to bullshit around, right? So I was like, okay, well, my name Felicia Hall, this, and that, and this. I'm like, yeah, my car, I got into an accident with my car, such. I'm like, oh, yeah, but it's a pound of coke in my car. I got all these drugs in my car, and this is that. The lady, she know I'm lying, right? You know how I know she lying? Because she know I'm lying, because she ain't budging. She ain't budging to nothing that I'm saying. Mind you, before she got there, Day what's the name, called her and was like, when she told me she was calling the police, my soul made a statement that I am not to be incarcerated. I am not to be put in jail. Whatever it said something, right? And so when the lady came and she was asking me these questions, and then I started talking about all these drugs, this and drugs that in the car, and she was like, no, you don't. And so Day Fuck! Y'all don't know who that is anyway, so whatever. And so she was telling the lady that something was wrong with me and I was crazy and I was trying to kill myself and this and that and this. So they started, like, the ambulance came and they started to, like, they was like, oh, we're gonna Baker at you and this and that and this. And so they tried to, like, put me in they fucking was putting me on this motherfucking what that little shit called that go in the back of the ambulance? What that thing called? Stretcher? Is that what it called? That thing. And so they like really, I'm resisting too. I'm like, y'all don't need to put me and take me nowhere. Like, nothing is wrong. I'm like, y'all not finna put me and take me nowhere. Like, let me go. And so they was fucking doing this shit. So my soul started to speak. My vessel calmed down, but my soul started speaking. It was like, oh no, they're finna crucify me again. And my soul was just like, oh, this is the same thing they did when they put me on the cross and da 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 da. It's like my soul is like going in. So and so they put me in the back of the ambulance. Now, mind you, this whole time I'm steady testing this telepathy. I'm testing it because I need to know, like, what's what before I dive into the belly of the beast. So I'm doing that. Now my soul is going off in the back of the car, and it's like, oh, it's Judgment Day. Everybody will be judged for their evil acts and such and such and such. So when they strapped me to the gurney, that's what it's called. I think it's called a gurney. Is it a gurney? When they strapped me to that, it was the strap. I don't know what was in the strap, but I felt like needles. It was like needles. Like, it was shooting something inside of my veins. Like, they were trying to shut me the fuck up, baby. They were trying to shut my soul up because it was just talking, but it was calling judgment on everything. And that shit started to shoot through my veins, but it wouldn't do shit. It wasn't doing shit to me because my vessel is something different. And so it's kind of hard to, you know, it heals itself. So it's kind of hard to do things, like certain things to me. And so as they're trying to shoot this shit in me, like, I can feel it. So my soul is like, what is that? Like, I look down at my hand and I'm telling them, I'm like, something is in. I'm like, something. What is that? I'm like, I'm asking them. They looking at me like I'm fucking crazy. And I'm like, what is that? What is that? I'm like, something is in. Like, something is shooting in my veins. I'm telling them, like, y'all gotta take this off of me. Take this off of me. It's shooting something in my veins. So they acting like they don't fucking hear me. So I look up at the black guy. There's a black guy behind me. Now, mind you, I'm speaking to him with my mind. And so I look up at him and I'm like, you can hear me? I look up and I'm like, I know you can hear me. I say, you're going to let them shoot this inside of me? Like, I'm looking up at him like, you're going to let them shoot this inside of me? This is my mind now. This is not my physical mouth. And so it started to say things about being chipped. It was like, y'all can check me. Like, I haven't been chipped. Like, y'all putting this shit inside of me because y'all think I'm a problem. Y'all think I'm a threat. I'm not the threat. I'm not the threat. It kept saying, I'm not the threat. I'm not the threat. I'm not the threat. Like, I haven't been chipped. Check me. You can check me. I haven't been chipped. And so they took this machine. And where did they put that machine? I don't even remember where they put the machine. But they put that machine there and they was checking for something, and I don't know what they saw. I don't know if they saw it. I don't know, but they scrapped something else to me. It was a fucking what is it called? One of those blood pressure machines, the little white thing that goes on the arm. And so when they put that on me, that shit started shooting some shit in my veins. It was really fucking weird. That shit started to shoot something in my veins. Now, mind you, I've always had a high tolerance, even when I was younger. Like, when my mom tried to get me Baker acted, I fought against it, and you know, I acted a fool in the hospital, and so they sedated me. And them people when they sedated me, they had to sedate me like 4 times just to knock me out, just to get me to go to sleep. And when I woke up, they were like, what the fuck are you? They were like, we had to give you 3 times the dosage it takes to put out a regular, like, to put somebody out. We had to give you 3 times that just just to put you to sleep. And so that was in the beginning. That was like when I was younger, a child. But this, when they strapped that fucking blood pressure machine to my arm, I felt like the same thing I felt from the strap on the gurney. Man, that shit was shooting something in my veins. And I'm like, take it off of me. I'm screaming. I'm like, take it off, take it off, take it off. I'm like, it's shooting something inside of me. I'm like, what are you, like, please take this off of me. Take it off of me. Take it off of me. They wouldn't take it off, child. So, my soul called judgment. It called judgment. So when I got to the hospital, they pulled me out of the back of the ambulance. So my soul is steady speaking and speaking and speaking. And by this time, I looked up to this guy who acted as if he was high ranking. He wasn't as high ranking as he tried to make himself seem, because when I called out for him, he was nowhere to be found. And so at that time, I had called out for him to at least speak up for me, like help me, and he would not. And so I was there. So they got me, when they brought me inside the hospital, they stopped the gurney and they just sat it there. Now I'm in front of a camera. Now it was a camera in the ambulance, and there was a camera in the hospital when they first brought me in. And the guy, my soul was speaking. Mind you, I wasn't speaking out of my physical mouth. Well, when they put me into the hospital, I started to speak out of my mouth. I was like, my spirit was speaking through me, to be honest. I can remember everything, but it was like an out-of-body experience. It was God speaking through me. He was like, you all will feel the wrath. You all will feel the wrath of God. You all will feel her wrath. You will feel the wrath of God. You will feel her wrath. You will be judged. Like, it was like, I don't know what I was going through, but that shit was deep. Like, they were trying to take me the fuck out. Whoever they is, look, I don't know, but bitch, it was judgment. Like, they were like, oh, you will feel the wrath of God. You will feel her wrath. All of you will feel her wrath. You will not get away with this again. Like, And so, next thing I knew, there was a towel being placed over my face. Somebody came from behind and put a towel over my face, pushed my head to the left, and shot something in my neck. In my neck right behind my ear. I don't know what it was, but it put me to sleep. I don't, to be honest with you, if you want me to be dead ass honest with you, I came here to be honest. Speaking my truth, to be honest. Whatever was put in my neck was supposed to kill me, but it didn't. Next thing I knew, I woke up in a room. I was in some type of a room. It wasn't like a room where you go where you get admitted. It wasn't like a room it was a room, looked like a room for a dead bitch. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm just gonna be dead ass honest. I woke up in that room, and when I woke up, my spirit started to speak again. But when it woke up, I heard somebody outside of the room watching the camera. I can hear myself. I can hear me on the computer screen calling judgment. Like, they were replaying everything I was saying on a computer. Like, somebody was watching the camera. And so as I woke up, my spirit started to speak again. I was up and I was calling for whoever had done that to me. And so they all came in the room, like so many doctors. It had to be 10 11 doctors came in and they surrounded me. They went a circle around me and they were just looking. They just were looking at me. And so my soul started to speak. It was like, I want who was responsible for what just happened. Come forth, come forth, come forth. It just kept saying, come forth, come forth, come forth. So they're all just standing there, and then this guy walked in, this white guy walked in with a mask over his face. He had a mask over his face with like teeth, like a big ass smile. The mask had like, it was like one of them fucked up smiles on it. And he walked in and he came and he stood next to me, and I just looked at him and I said, well, my soul said, mind you, I'm literally not using my mouth. All of this whole story that I'm telling you, most of it was done with my mind, except for when I started talking about the wrath of God. That I said that out of my mouth. I don't know what that was, but yeah, I said that with my mouth. And so I looked up at him and I was like, are you the cause of this? And he just looked. He didn't say anything, you know. And so everybody walked out. Now, they ended up putting me inside of the fucking crazy place in this hospital, whatever floor that was, after they had shot something in my leg, like some type of I don't know if it was a tracker or if it was something like COVID, like the vaccine. I'm not really sure what it was. All I know is God did not want it inside of my body, which is why I had to go into that accident that broke my femur bone. Because whatever they put in there, they put it inside of my right leg and my femur, in that area. How I know this is because I felt it. There was this pain that I kept feeling. It's like something was there, but it was only in one spot. And I kept massaging it. I'm like, well, damn, what is that? You know, I didn't know what the fuck it was. I kept massaging it. Like, well, damn, I don't remember them shooting me up in my leg. They had to do that shit after they had sedated me. And that shit was just in my fucking leg. And it was like a little lump. But anyway, so yeah, they ended up putting me on the psych ward. Now, mind you, when I wake up because they had sedated me again and put me back under. So when I woke up in the psych ward, I had to speak to a psychiatrist. And so she was on the screen. She didn't come in. She was on this screen. So they brought her in and they put the camera on me and we were talking. And she's like, how are you, Miss Hall? I'm like, I'm doing good. I'm okay. Everything is all good. She was like, well, what do you remember? You know, what do you, how are you feeling? And such and such and such. I'm like, I'm okay. I say, I'm okay. I'm doing pretty good. You know, I was talking to her in a normal state of mind. And so I was like, yeah, I remember everything. I remember everything. And so she was like, okay. And she left me alone. She released me. She gave them the okay to release me. And so they did. I didn't know that the friend that I was visiting, she ended up calling my sister. I don't even know how she even got my sister's number, but she called my sister and told my sister that I was down there on drugs, just doing heavy drugs, and I had gotten arrested, and it was so much like going on. She like really did a number, like trying to make it seem like I was really on drugs up there. And no, she had spiked that fucking joint, and that shit fucked me up. But that was that. So I ended up leaving, and the girl who I was there with, she came and picked me up. And when she picked me up, she gave me back my phone, and my shit was shattered. Like, my whole screen, like a bitch had put it on the ground and stomped on it, and like shattered the whole fucking screen. Like, they didn't want me to have no way out from up there, but they didn't know I had another phone like in my car. So I ended up going back to her house, and I got my phone out of my car and I called my mom. I called my mom, bitch. Oh, one thing about it, boy. Hey, I know she might can be a handful herself, but one thing, what? Look, if I call her and I'm really, 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 really scared, she gonna come get me, boy. She gonna come get me, boy. We might not get along for too much longer after that, but she gonna come. And so I called her and I texted her and I apologized about everything that we had been through. And I told her that I was scared and I wanted her to come get me. I told her about everything that was going on and how I was seeing and hearing things and, this and that and this. And about the Baker action and all of that other shit. And I just was like, Mom, please come get me. Please just come get me. And she ended up coming to Winter Haven to get me. And so I went back to Jacksonville. That really didn't last long. If you know my mother, then you know that didn't last long. So I was only there for maybe about 2 to 3 months. I had ended up start conversing back with my dad, who's incarcerated, and he sent me some money. It was his money. He asked me to hold it, but he ended up sending it to my mom's Cash App because mine wasn't active at the time. So he sent it there, and she had started to spend the money, and so I told him, and he asked me to ask her to give it to me. So when she gave it to me, he she started to, her attitude changed about that. So we ended up falling out. She ended up trying to have me incarcerated. She let them people know I had a gun and all of these things, even though I carried, but I only carried for protection. It wasn't to harm anyone. But yeah, she tried to have me incarcerated, telling people I had a gun and, I was this and I was that. And mind you, she tried to steal the gun, but whatever. That's neither here nor there, and I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers. Plus, I think she watched the channel. Mother, hello. I'm not trying to, just doing here what I came to do. But I ended up leaving, I was around, I caught a Greyhound to Georgia, I tried to go to a shelter. Mind you, I didn't have a car. My car was messed up at the time, so I didn't have a car. So I was pretty much traveling. I ended up having to leave all of my things to her house. I packed me 2 duffel bags. I had 2 traveling bags. I packed those, and, I got in the Uber. I tried to go to a shelter, but they wanted to fucking put that swab thing up my nose, and I wasn't having that shit because they did that shit to me in the beginning of 2020. You know how they test you for COVID? They put the little swab thing up your nose. They did that shit to me one time, and let me tell you, that shit started to fuck with my mind. It started to fuck with my memory. It started to take away, I almost damn near didn't know my fucking name. It started to fuck with my head, and so I told myself I would never let them do that again. So most of the the shelters up there, that was a required, it was mandatory, and so I wasn't having that. So I did a lot of sleeping outside. I slept outside. I slept inside of the U-Haul storages. I had got me a storage to put my 2 bags in because I didn't want to walk around with them all day, and I did have, a couple of little dollars. So I had bought me a storage and put my bags in it. I would sit there most of the day, do my research, do what I needed to do because I had my laptop. I had my 2 phones. So I decided to go to Orlando. I went back to Orange County. I caught the Greyhound to Orange County, and I was there. I wasn't there long. I was there for maybe a week at the most, but I had got very uncomfortable because I wanted to go to an affordable hotel But the shit, even though it was affordable, that shit wasn't safe. It's like the lock on the door was not secured. Like the shit had to be like the door had been kicked down and the lock wouldn't lock, and I was uncomfortable. And then somebody ended up getting shot that night. Like, so when I woke up, it was blood all outside. It was just a whole big ass commotion. So I just packed my shit and I came back to Florida. I ain't gonna lie to you. I came back to Fort Lauderdale because it's just like a whole lot of shit was going on around me, and I came back to Florida. So I came back to live with my uncle. He let me stay there for a couple of weeks. So I ended up getting a job, saving my money. No, I wanted a car. I wanted me another car. I'm not gonna lie, I did. So I ended up getting a job, and my first check down, it was a deposit. I went and dropped a deposit on me a car. Oh. Mind you, the whole time I'm there, I'm still testing my telepathy. I'm still testing everything. You know, I'm testing it with my uncle. I had started writing my book, my first book. Not the book I'm about to get published now, but there's a book I started writing a couple of years ago. It's called The Weight of the World. It is my testimony. Most of the stuff that I'm talking about in these videos is probably going to be in that book. I'm only like 3 chapters in, but it's still a process. A deep process. So he heard me writing that book. Now, as I'm writing that book, I'm speaking it in my head, because as I'm typing it, you know, I'm reading it. And when I'm reading it, I read with my mind. I read with my soul, so he can hear it. So he comes and he's like, "What's up? What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm writing my book." And so he was like, "Oh, what is it about?" So I was telling him, you know, and I was telling him about the first 2 chapters. The first chapter is about my dad. The second chapter is about my mom. And then I start getting into me. So I guess he heard me writing my mom's chapter of the book. And it kind of put him in his feelings. So he was like, he's like, "What are you writing?" And I'm like, "I'm writing my book." And, you know, you could tell by the look on his face that he didn't approve. And quite frankly, I don't give a fuck. So that was that. So I started to test him as well. Came back to Florida and the drugs became a thing again. Not for long though. It became a thing again. And I don't know, he was just weird acting. Like, everybody was just weird acting for a long time. For like 3 years, everybody was just weird acting, like fucking undercover agents or some shit. It was just weird. But yeah, so what can I say? I tested him one day. I was like, oh. I was like, "Oh, Uncle Sam, if you can hear me, wiggle your big toe." He gonna wiggle his damn toe. I just started laughing. I started laughing because it was funny. It's funny when I test people and they do it, but then they try to act as if it didn't happen, you know? So yeah, that's the telepathy. So I'm gonna go ahead and just jump into the last car accident. Well, it wasn't the last, but it was the worst one. I was following the voice of my husband, my kingdom spouse. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. But it was his higher self speaking to me, and he wanted back into this world. He wanted back into the higher realms. He wanted back into this world. And so he led me to a portal. He led me to a tree. I don't know, but like 3 days before the accident, God was trying to, you know, give me a warning. You know, he was just letting me know that something was about to happen, that I was going to die, you know. But it wasn't to scare me. It was just to make me aware of what was about to happen. But I kept throwing it off. I really didn't want. I kept saying, not now. I don't want to talk about that now. But it kept trying to tell me, you know, you're gonna have to. You're gonna have to. It's not gonna be the end though. It's gonna be the beginning. He kept making it very important that it's not going to be the end. It's going to be the beginning. You're going to die, but I'm going to bring you back. It was like that. And so 3 days after I kept hearing that, I got in my car. Well, before I got in my car, I was watching Law and Order, and it was something. Mind you, I had just gotten pregnant. I had just made it past the first 8 or 9 months. But the guy that I had gotten pregnant by, he was still in the low vibration, and he claimed he didn't want the child. I don't know what was going on with him on the inside, but it was his lower self, his higher self that's always with me or leading me or whatever the case. But so I had just made it past 8 weeks. I had made it into the second month. Mind you, it's hard for me to carry past. Well, it was hard. In my lower vibration, in my lower state of consciousness, it was very hard for me to conceive, because it would be bad for the world if I conceived a child in a low energy. It has to be a love child. It has to be a child of a higher consciousness. It has to be a child of a higher vibration, so that it doesn't become a problem to the world. It is to be a solution and not the problem. It is to be an angel and not a demon. It is to be of the light and not of the dark. And so it was hard to conceive past a certain stage. The egg might get fertile, but it won't implant, but this one made it. Yeah, this one made it. This one made it. He was so strong too, so strong. Like I can feel him trying to astral travel, like so early. Like he's so anxious to get here that he's too anxious. Like at first he was like too anxious, and my body wasn't strong enough to hold him. Like I had to strengthen my uterus. I had to strengthen my sacral chakra in order for him to be able to stay still, because he moves a lot. He's like me. He's like his dad. He's a traveler. He's a free spirit. He's going to be very, 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 very powerful. Shall I say. But if my wound is not strong enough to hold him, he will astral project himself out of the womb back into the spiritual realm, and then the egg would release like a regular period. Like it would come out, the sac would come out like a blood clot, a really, really, really big blood clot. It's amazing. It's a process, Once I realized what was actually happening, it became fascinating. But yeah, he made it. I made it past 8 weeks. I had started to spot, but it wasn't natural though. It was something his dad did. So I don't know. It was something he put on his penis. Like it was some type of a herb, or I don't know. Because I didn't see it. All I know is that he grabbed something and put it on there, and when he put it on there, he grabbed my leg and he pinned it back, right? So the area that he grabbed after everything was done, this is how I know something was put on there to like hold him, like whatever it was from this bloodline, whatever, like this is why it wants his bloodline, because it's powerful, and there's a lot of knowledge there about esoteric, about metaphysical, about I don't want to use the word because it's not the word that I'm looking for. It's magic. And whatever it was, because when he touched my leg, whatever that herb was, when he touched my leg, that shit had me itching on my leg. This is how I know. I be knowing. So yeah, whatever that was, it worked. But it wasn't strong enough, It was strong, but it wasn't strong enough to hold both of our negative energy. like, because I was still in a low vibration. He was in a low vibration. Like, I wasn't in a really low. We wasn't really low in the vibration, but we wasn't where we were supposed to be to bring this child here. So, you know, the herb, whatever that was that he used, it was strong, but it wasn't strong. And so, they were able to fuck it up. I'm not sure if it was his words, because his words hold power, but he kept saying he didn't want it, he didn't want it, he didn't want it. And so I'm not sure if that's what did it, but I know that when I came back to my uncle's house, I had some vitamins that I was taking, and I had ended up leaving them to my uncle's house, and his girlfriend had moved in, and I had ended up leaving for like a week or two, and then I came back and I saw the vitamins. They weren't in the room where I had them, but they were on the kitchen table. And so I took one out of the bottle and I ate it. As soon as I ate it, I felt something in my womb. It started to make the sac, it started to make the sac detach from my uterus. Whatever, I don't know. Like I said, I know his words hold power, but he had been saying that for damn near a week or two. So I'm not quite pinpoint sure. But if I'm gonna be honest with you, I am, because I didn't lose the baby until I ate that vitamin. When I ate that vitamin, I instantly felt the sac start to detach from the womb. So I don't know what was done to the vitamins energetically, but yeah, that's how that happened. And so yeah, the next day came. I was getting ready to go to work. No, I had just left work. I had just got into, a slight little bicker with my bosses about my pay. It was about my pay. I had got into it with them, so I had ended up walking out of the office, and I was still going through a lot spiritually. My soul was still on a rampage, doing what she does, he does, they does, we does. And so I came out when I was home. He has this table, and it's shaped like a it's like a triangle, but it's not. I don't know if you've ever watched Charmed, like the TV show Charmed, the old one, not the new one that they have now, but the old one with Phoebe, Paige, the three witches. But that symbol, the table was shaped like that. It was like exactly like that. And so while I'm channeling all of this information and all of this energy, I'm pacing around this table. I don't know why I'm pacing around this table, but I'm pacing around this table, and I'm pacing, and my soul is going off. It's going off about, some other shit at the office, and then some other shit with the higher ups, and then the other shit. So my soul is like going off. I'm like, okay, so I go outside, I step outside. When I step outside, it's two helicopters, like, in the air, next to each other, pointed at my door, just sitting there. And so I wave. I wave, because I had just got a tarot reading about, I had just saw a tarot. I didn't get when it came across my timeline, and I watched it. And so it was saying about, something about me being in a jacket with boots and a headscarf. So when I walked outside and I saw those helicopters, I had that on. It was a little chilly, so I had on some black boots. I had on my black jacket, and I had my headscarf tied around my hair, because I had some plaits in. I love me some plaits in a headscarf. So I had the scarf on. So when I saw, they were like, that reading popped into my mind's eye. So I was waving. I don't know why I waved, but I waved. And so I went back in the house. I finished doing whatever I was doing, walking, pacing around the table. And so I went back outside. So I went back outside, and I got in the car, And I heard my husband, and so he started to speak. And so he said, I need you to come to me. And so I was like, lead the way. And he started to lead me. As I started to drive, you know, he would tell me, left here, right there, left here, right there. And so he ended up leading me to this community. It was a community of Haitians. I don't know. It was like most of the population in that area were Haitians. And so it was right off of, I'm not going to say that, but he ended up leading me to a tree, big tree. It was a really, really, really big tree. It reminded me of the tree of life. If you ever saw the symbol of the tree of life like that, it looked like that. And so he led me there. He had me back into the okay, so I'm gonna tell you how he led me there. When I came to the last stop sign that's gonna lead me to the complex, to the apartment complex, because it was a apartment complex inside of a gate. So when he led me there, like when it got time for me to make the last left, I looked up. This is how I looked up. He was like, look up. So I looked up to the left of me, and it was like a big ass bird made of clouds. Like the clouds was shaped like a bird. It looked like an angel. And it was over this tree. It was like right directly over this tree. And so I knew where I had to go. So I made a left, and I went to this tree, and I backed into the 7th parking spot, and next to it was the 6th. And so it's like he was in that parking spot. I don't know what that was, what I felt. I just know that I felt him in that parking spot in that 6th. So I just sat there. You know, I had my gospel music playing, and I just sat there listening to the music, looking at the sky. I didn't know what I was doing there, but I was there. And as I looked up to the sky, and I looked up to the sun. And as I looked at the sun, this is the first time I ever realized that I can actually look at the sun, like directly at the sun, and nothing, it doesn't hurt. I can see it for what it is. And so as I'm looking at the sun, like this hole started to appear. It's like there was this fucking dark black hole next to it, right next to it. And then I heard, put the sun in the hole. So I was like, what? I'm like, put the sun in the hole. Said it again. Bring them together. Close it. Put the sun in the hole. Bring them together. Close it. And so I did it. I don't know. I trained my vision on the sun, and it started to move. They started to come together. I couldn't blink though. If I blinked, it would move. It would shift back apart. So I had to train my eyes long enough to bring them together. And so that is what I did. It was hard, but when I did it, it was like some rays. It was 4 rays that came. Once I put the sun in the hole, it was like some rays came from it, like a cross. It were like going up. It was one coming from the bottom going down. It was one coming from the top going up. It was one coming from the right going out, and then it was one coming from the left going out. It was like a cross over, like in the sun that reflected from the sun being in the hole. That's another story for another day. Eventually I'll tell y'all about that. It was a dome. We were in a dome, and the dome is no longer, which means the veil is no longer, which means the angels can get through, which means it's the angels that were shut out can get through. Father Earth, Mother Sky, they're now connected to each other as one. They were separated, but they're now together, which is why a lot of which is why a lot of disasters have been happening, because they were separated for so long. Everything was unbalanced for so long that it has to catch up. Like, it has to catch up with each other. A lot of things that were here can no longer be here. A lot of lower energies can no longer be here. They don't thrive here. They're not supposed to be here. And so the powers of Father Sky and Mother Earth, they are one. They come together. They are the Most High God. And so they are cleaning house. Heaven on earth. We will have heaven on earth, whether people like it or not. We will have peace. We will have heaven on earth. If you do not align with the highest gods, then you're not gonna survive here. That's just what it is. So yeah, I closed it. I closed the hole. I'm about to end this, but I closed the hole and I left. So I got him. I'm not gonna lie. After I closed the hole, for some reason, I got out the car and did a victory dance. I don't know, like, what that was about. Like, I'm telling y'all, like, this is, like, the shit is real. Like, my vessel moves with spirit. So it's like, a lot of things I don't really be knowing until I be knowing. And when I did that shit, for some reason, like, this praise song came on. I don't remember which one it was at the specific time, but that shit came on, and it was like, I got out the car and I did a victory dance, bitch. I don't know why, but I was out there getting my praise on. So, so I got back in the car and I was about to head back to work. So, when I left out of the apartment complex, I made a left and I came to a stop sign. When I came to that stop sign, I heard, it's time. Once I heard it was time, I felt myself drift into a sleep. Like, something shut me off, like a computer. Like, something was activated to shut me off. Like, that's all I remember. I remember slowly drifting off into a sleep. And it was right after I heard it's time. When I heard it's time, I started to drift away. I didn't have on a seatbelt, nothing. I don't know. Now, if you know, then you know. Like, I was on Sunrise and 56th. When I came out, in 55th, when I came out of that apartment complex, how the fuck, and that I drifted off. So you mean to tell me I blindly drove myself? So you mean to tell me I blindly drove myself from 56th and Sunrise to Oakland and 56th? Do you know how far that is to drive and not know and not to be asleep? Listen, that my car accident, the one that messed up my leg, that is the one that I drove all the way from there to Oakland and 56th, and then I had the accident. I don't know what was so specific about that. I don't know what's so significant about it, but yeah, that was that. And I remember, all I remember is hearing it's time. When I heard it's time, I remember drifting off into a sleep. And then the next thing I remember is the ambulance lady. She's like, ma'am. Like, as I'm hearing her, I feel my soul dropping back into my body. It's like I incarnated inside of the same lifetime. Like, my soul did not want to leave this body. It loves this body. The heart. Like, my heart is so pure that my body, my soul, it loves this body. And so, she's like, ma'am. So I wake up. I'm a little out of it because I didn't have on the seatbelt. When I hit the tree, I came out of my seat. My head hit the windshield, and my right leg, it hit the steering wheel, and it cracked. It broke my femur in half. So that was that. She's like, ma'am, are you okay? And I'm like, oh. She was like, you hit your head. So when she said that, I went out again, passed out again. And so she, next thing I know, I woke up in the hospital, and they were everybody was around me. They were talking. And I looked down at my leg, bitch, and they were like, we about to snap it back in place. Bitch. So yeah, they went so they snapped it. I was out again. Out cold again. So yeah, so next thing I know, I woke up and with my leg wrapped, with a bunch of nurses standing around me, and they were just looking at me in awe. Like, they were looking at me in awe. It was like in awe, but it was also like in fear. Like, you can feel the fear in them. Like, and so I started talking. I was just talking about so many different things. Like, you can tell I wasn't fully, it was like an out-of-body experience. They were speaking more so to my soul than they were my physical body, because they had given me so much medicine, to stop the pain. And you all know what the drugs do to me. They take me into the spiritual realm. And so they were speaking more to my spirit than they were to my physical body. And so we were talking, and I was telling them about the accident, and I was telling them about everything that happened. I was just so excited. Like, it was excitement. I remember it was so much excitement. Like, I was proud of myself, and I was telling them, and I was like, yeah, Archangel Michael, I was explaining my tattoos to them, because I have a lot of tattoos, and most of my tattoos, they mean something. And so I was telling them about, I have an AK. I have a big AK on my right leg where my femur was broken at. It broke through the AK, and it's like, that's Michael's weapon. That's what he uses to protect me. Like, he's a shooter. And so he, it was like, it was weird, but this is how I knew that it was partially God, and then it was partially, the other side that orchestrated for this to happen. It was something that had to happen for many reasons. One of the main reasons was to show the power of God. Another reason was to show the power within me. And then another reason was to get whatever the fuck they put inside of my leg out. Because whatever, if you remember 30 minutes ago, an hour ago in the video, I was telling you about something that was put inside of my leg at the hospital. My bone, it broke right there, exactly at that spot. And it was chipped off. It was like the bone was broken, but then there was a separate part that was chipped off. Like, there was a part in my bone missing. This is why they had to put the rod in it, because if the bone had just cracked, they would be able to put it in a cast, and then eventually it would stick back together. It would come back together and just heal. But because it was a big chunk of my bone that broke off, the part where with the chip or whatever that was in my leg, it broke off. And so there was a big part of my bone missing, so they had to put a metal rod in it to get it to heal. And so, yeah, I was pissed off with them, because, after that, I had went into another deep resting state. So when I came to my senses, and I was like, oh, okay, let me use the phone. I want to call my sister. They're like, oh, you can't use the phone. You're Baker at it. And I'm like, what? How the fuck you Baker act somebody off of a car accident? I say, how did I ended up being the fucking Haitian lady? I don't know what the fuck her name is. I don't know, but she's like, oh yeah, you're Baker at it. So I'm like, why am I Baker at it? And she was like, because you were saying a lot of things that didn't make sense, and such and such and such and such. So I'm like, well, ma'am, I know exactly what I said. I can tell you exactly what I said. I repeated everything I said to her, and I said, not one time did you hear me say that I wanted to kill myself. You didn't hear me say I wanted to kill myself. You didn't hear me say I wanted to kill anybody else. That is when you Baker act somebody. You don't just Baker act somebody for speaking on something that they experienced. No, that doesn't make me crazy. That doesn't make me, so it was a whole big ass thing about that. But I was in my fucking feelings about that, because I wanted to call people. I wanted to, be free. Like, don't try to cage me. Don't try to fucking cage me and try to make me seem like something is wrong with me, because there's nothing wrong with me at all. And if you feel like that, then you don't have to come around me. You don't have to come around me. You don't have to deal with me. I'm not letting anybody put me in a box any longer. Like, you're not going to put me in a box. You're not going to cage me. You're not going to suppress me. You're not going to make me feel as though, yeah, it's not that. This is not that. This is no longer that. You are no longer you are no longer allowed to accumulate generational wealth off of my spiritual ignorance. That is no longer the case. So, that is the end of that. Now, I didn't want to put that inside of this video, but I figured I would, because it wouldn't make sense to make a part two to, so I'll probably just break it down into sections so that, if you don't want to watch the whole 2.5, 3 hours, you can at least tune in to parts of it. But I do want to thank you all for tuning in and for listening to my story, my testimony. Again, the main topic of this video, it is telepathy. It is the universal language. It is how you communicate to the Most High gods. It is how you communicate to the birds and the trees and the animals and each other. Like, before we had words, we didn't know what words were. How do you think we communicated? Like, I don't know. But it is definitely a higher level of communication, and it is done through the mind, and the mind is where the soul lives. So just keep in mind that manifesting is just another word for telepathically communicating with the universe. So you definitely have to be careful, because it is your soul speaking to the Most High gods. Not only are you speaking to them, but everyone in the universe can hear you speaking to them. This is why it's very important to ask for the gift of discernment. You must apply that to your life, within your life, so that you can be aware of where your blessings are coming from. If you happen to be using your manifestation telepathy gift to pray for financial breakthroughs, how it shows up to you, it means everything. How it makes you feel when it shows up to you, it means everything. Do not be fooled by the enemy. The enemy can also hear you praying to the higher power, asking for blessings and breakthroughs. And so they'll try to disguise things as blessings to make you do something that goes against your morals or what you believe or your character. So just be mindful. Be mindful. Pay attention to things that you ask for and how it comes to you. When it comes to you, how does it make you feel? That's very important when you're dealing with what we're stepping into. And we're stepping to a higher living. We're stepping into a higher consciousness. And that means your awareness has to be higher. So thank you all for listening. Thank you all for tuning in. This one here is quite long. I'm not going to lie to you. But if you made it to the end, please hit the like, share, and comment, subscribe, drop down, comments, how you feel about it. Drop some doves down below, prayer hands. Drop an ear if you're listening, if you got the message, because the time has come. Heaven on earth, it is inevitable. I also want to ask you guys to go check out my playlist called Poem Time. These are a lot of different poems that were created during my dark night of the soul, during my spiritual journey, as I traveled through these different dimensions and these different timelines to get where I am now. The playlist, again, it is called Poem Time. Y'all tap in. Also like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe and share some of that content as well. I would really, really, really appreciate it. Let me know what y'all think. What else? If you all would like to donate to help me get my first book published, it is fully written. It has been copyrighted. It is ready for publication. It's ready to be published. I'm pretty much just waiting for the funds to actually have it published. It costs about $3,200 to get it published and put inside of the major bookstores. This is not the testimony. This is not the weight of the world. This is another series. This is a series that I started. It is called the 3D series. Duality, the Defender, and what's the other one? Duality, Defender, and Divine Winds. So there's Duality, there's the Defender, and there's Divine Winds. Duality is now complete and ready for publication. It is the 3D trio. So if you would like to help me get that published, please, the Cash App is in the description box below. Send all of your donations there. Or you can go to the website. The website is also in the description. That is where you can find my clothing. I'm also going to be uploading a lot of different things there. I'm going to have some spiritual baths available. I'm going to be blessing them, charging them to give you all the best possible results that you could ask the universe for. So I will be having spiritual baths there as well. It's going to be many things there, but you can find the link to the book there as well for you to make any donations. Again, thank you all for listening. Sending you all lots and lots and lots and tons of peace, love, and light, prosperity, blessings, abundance, clarity, understanding, knowledge, wisdom. And I send all of this to you in Jesus Christ's name. If you accept it, then, you will be blessed beyond your measures. Have a lovely, lovely, bubbly day in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.